Hey guys, Sam here and welcome back to another FIFA 17 experiment. A couple of days ago, we did an experiment featuring Classic 11 and putting them up against some of the world's best teams in a Super League and seeing how they would do. If you haven't checked out that video, you can go ahead and find it on the channel, or I will leave it in the top right corner here. Click the little eye and you can go to that video. Today what we'll be doing is something similar but something different. Instead of Classic 11 coming up against the world's best teams, what if Classic 11 and World 11 played against Premier League opponents? The reason that we're putting them in the Premier League is because there's not a lot of Premier League players in the World 11. There's not a lot of Premier League players with massive ratings, so a lot of the clubs can retain a decent squad and compete against these two teams, but these two teams really should be the cream of the crop. Classic 11 has some fantastic ratings. World 11 has some of the best players on the game. So these two teams should really dominate. But we know how these tournament sims can be. They're not exactly normal. They don't go exactly the way you think it will go. So today we're going to find out what would happen if the Classic 11 and World 11 competed with each other in the Premier League. Who would win? Who would get the higher point total? If you guys do go in to enjoy today's video, make sure you do leave a like on it. If you're new around here, you can subscribe, and also do leave a comment, a suggestion for something that you'd like to see in these FIFA 17 experiment videos. You guys keep bringing out these amazing ideas, and I am making a list, so you guys can keep suggesting and we'll keep making videos of your guys' ideas. But without further ado, let's quickly recap of what Classic 11 looked like, but let's take a look at the World 11 as well before we get into the simulated tournament. Okay, so we saw what the Classic 11 looked like in the Classic 11 episode, but that's a quick recap of the team. There's also some fantastic rated players on the bench. But moving on to the World 11, I do want to point out that there is a World 11 in FIFA 17 and an Adidas 11 in FIFA 17, and both these teams aren't really a World 11. The Adidas 11 has Messi, Bale and Suarez up front with Ozil in there, Pogba. It's a decent team, but it isn't the highest rated players, and that's fair enough because it's only players sponsored by Adidas. And the World 11 is a real strange one. I don't know how they pick these players because there's a lot of low rated players and I'm not sure the criteria to how they pick these players. Additionally, it's really weird. You can't play as the World 11 in like kickoff mode or anything like that, but you can add them to tournaments. So I have no idea what the deal is with this World 11. It's not really a World 11 at all, so I decided we'd make our own World 11 with the best players in FIFA. And this is the team that we ended up making, playing under the Real Madrid banner. I know it doesn't really matter what team they play for, guys, and I know there's going to be some people that are upset that they're playing for Real Madrid, especially considering there are a few Barcelona players in here, but don't take too much attention away from the fact that it does not matter what team they played for. I simply went for Real Madrid because they've won the most Champions League. They're again in the Champions League final this year, so they are one of the biggest clubs in Europe, and I just decided to put everybody in Real Madrid. Please don't get too salty over this because I just know there are going to be some people who don't like the fact that we're playing as Real Madrid in terms of the World 11. But moving on to the actual team, you got Ramos, Boateng and Silva as your three centre-backs, the three highest rated centre-backs. Manuel Neuer obviously in between the sticks. Mesut Ozil and Modric are the two central midfielders with Neymar and Bale on each wing. Messi is the cam behind Cristiano Ronaldo and Luis Suarez. It's a fantastic team. You got Lewandowski, Kroos, Pogba, De Bruyne. You also have the likes of De Gea, Pepe and PK on the bench, and you've also got a couple of reserves as well, but I simply went for the highest rated players in those positions, and this is the World 11 that we will be using because in my opinion the Adidas 11 and the World 11 are just really not good enough, and I wanted to see what the highest rated players today could do compared to the Classic 11, and I think this is a much better matchup because this looks like an amazing team as well. So without further ado, let's take a look at how this league ended up. Let's take a look at halfway through the season and see which of these teams have gotten off to a better start. Okay, halfway through the season, the World 11 are actually at the top of the table. They've only lost 2 games so far, and they've got 8 points more than the Classic 11. Last time the Classic 11 were undefeated halfway through the season. This time they picked up 4 defeats. Obviously, these two teams have actually played each other once so far, so we're going to take a look at how that ended up. As you can see, it was the World 11 home game against the Classic 11, and it was always going to be an amazing matchup. So let's take a look at how this actually turned up. Messi was the first to score for the World 11, but the Classic 11's top goal scorer last time, Miller, the Cameroonian left wing / striker, made it 1-1, and the World 11 actually putting up a really good fight, a better fight than I would. I kind of expected Classic 11 to be the better team here, just just based on their ratings. Going into the last 15 minutes, it's still 1-1, and Messi jags the brace to give the World 11 the upper hand and the first win of the 2 games between these teams. So I'm pretty surprised. I don't know about you guys, but I'm sure the home game for the Classic 11 will probably go a different way. But I did want to mention a couple of surprises. Manchester United, who have obviously lost Pogba and Ibrahimovic, as far as losing players to the World 11. They sit in 15th. Not a lot of these teams, like I said, were affected. Chelsea actually ended up losing Hazard and Courtois, and Arsenal ended up losing Alexis Sanchez and Mesut Ozil. So there are some players, I'm sure I'm missing some. Manchester City lost Aguero, he's on the reserves for the World 11. So there are teams missing players. So as far as this league looking a little bit more weird than the other leagues, it makes a little bit more sense because some of these teams have lost some really, really good players. Not that they aren't short for talent. A lot of these teams kept a lot of their players, but anybody above like 88 or 87 was pretty much taken by the World 11. So for this experiment, I mean, although they are usually really weird, this experiment I think makes a little bit more sense for the big teams struggling. So without further ado, let's take a look at what this league looks like at the end of the season. Can the World 11 hang on to this? They're up by 8 points, which is really surprising. Can they keep that lead, and can they topple the Classic 11? Let's take a look. Alright, so the end of the season, and the World 11 extended their lead, a 10-point win over Classic 11, losing 4 games throughout the season. Funnily enough, the team scored the exact same amount of goals. The World 11 had a bit better of a defense, and they ended up winning the league by 10 points. Really, really shocking for me that Classic 11 lost 6 games. Chelsea lost less games than them. That is a real surprise. Last time, the only team that lost less games than Classic 11 was Bayern Munich. This time, they lost more than Chelsea, and that's a Chelsea squad without Courtois and Eden Hazard, so that is a real strange one. We do know that they did lose 1 game to World 11. Without further ado, let's take a look at how that second game went right now. As you can see, this time it was a Classic 11 home game, and you would expect a bit more of a challenging match here, but you never know. The World 11, if they won it by 10 points, they could have actually won this game as well and really put themselves really far ahead of Classic 11. Zico makes it 1-0 to Classic 11 in the 25th minute though, and going into the second half, they're looking very, very good so far, but this World 11 is really good, and I'm still thinking that they get a result here because they won by 10 points, so I'm sure they got a result here. Going into the last 10 minutes, I think Classic 11 are going to hold out the win. No, Luis Suarez in the 90th minute makes it 1-1. And World 11 escaped with a draw. So World 11 didn't lose to Classic 11 once. They picked up 4 points from the 2 games. That is a hell of a feat. I think that is a really, really good accomplishment for World 11. And I'm genuinely surprised that they've been able to do that good against Classic 11. So as we can see, Classic 11 lost one of their games to World 11, but the other 5 losses are really, really surprising. I didn't really expect them to lose any other games other than the World 11. So yeah, I really can't get over that. That is a bit of a shock, but Chelsea retained that 3rd spot. Spurs ended up moving into 4th, and Manchester City in 5th. As far as your struggling big teams, you had Manchester United in 9th, Arsenal in 10th, and Liverpool in 13th. You could even say Everton in 15th was a bit of a struggle as well. If you're wondering which 2 teams aren't in here that are usually in the Premier League, it's Sunderland and Middlesbrough. I ended up taking out the last place and second last place team in the Premier League this year to put in the World 11 and Classic 11. So, wow. World 11 dominated this league. As far as the top goal scorers, it was Rivellino who was the top goal scorer for the Classic 11 with 22 goals. Luis Suarez for the World 11 picked up 18 goals, and Coutinho, who keeps popping up in these top goal scoring lists, he picked up 14 goals for Liverpool. He missed out on the World 11 unfortunately, but he was tied with Wilson and Sane as well, all picking up 14 goals this season. But that is it. That is the end of today's experiment, guys. A real interesting result in my opinion. What did you guys think? Didn't you think that the Classic 11 might have had a bit of an easier time, especially considering how they did in the Super League? I thought that this would be a bit of an easier test against them. Yes, the World 11 was always going to be a struggle for them, but I feel like the general level of opponent was a lot easier than the Super League that we put them in, and they smashed the Super League, so I thought they would smash this. I thought that really they would lose points against the World 11, and even then I thought they would get at least 3 points against the World 11. They only got 1 point over 2 games, and that is a real shock for me. Thank you so much for watching though. I hope you guys did enjoy this experiment. If you did, you can leave a like on the video. If you're new around here, you can subscribe, and also keep leaving your suggestions for future FIFA 17 experiment videos. goes. But that's it, guys. I'm not going to hold you anymore. I'm going to get up out of here, guys. I hope you did enjoy today's video. I hope you had a good day. I'll see you guys in the next one very soon. Keep it real.